Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Modular Stories. In this podcast, I would like to create a platform for people to share themselves, their stories, their experiences, and their life lessons. Before each episode, my guest can build and patch their own background music with the help of my modular synth. My goal with this podcast is to inspire the listeners, spark their creativity, and to share these incredible people I get to talk to with the world. I hope you enjoy it. First of all, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. For everybody, this is Taylor Garcia, a very dear friend of mine and an incredible filmmaker from LA. But I don't want to introduce you. I want to give you the space to introduce yourself, to just say who you are.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a small question. I'm Taylor. Very nice to talk with Tim on this podcast. I was very honored that you asked me to join. I think it's such a cool idea, and Tim has so many wonderful ideas to share and is the perfect person to talk with other people through a podcast, because he's just constantly interesting and knows how to easily make people feel welcome and talk. As for myself, Tim and I met while I was studying abroad, doing a documentary in Bonn, Germany, and it was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had, and Tim definitely, contributed to that. And I just graduated from Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, California, so I am beginning my life as a freelance filmmaker.
Yeah. It's gonna be a fun journey. I'm so excited for you to see what will come. I mean, you're already incredible.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
The stuff you already did is really, really cool, and I'm really excited to see how everything will go out. But let me maybe ask you for just the beginning, like, how did everything like this start? I'm really curious to see, like, how did you get into filmmaking? How did you choose filmmaking as like a career path or like a study path?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it was funny because I was actually really convinced I wanted to get into something like political science when I was in high school. And it was because I was watching the show How to Get Away with Murder. And I don't know if you've seen it, but it's I might have told you this story too. So it's basically a Shonda Rhimes show where Viola Davis plays the main character, and they are all law students in her class, and she teaches them how to get away with murder and become the best law students possible. And I just thought this concept was so interesting, and I was learning so much about law. And by the time I had really finished all of my poli-sci classes in high school, and I joined this team called We the People, and it was a competitive course where we went to Washington, D.C. For nationals, and basically, it was kind of debate mixed with poli-sci. And by the time I had finished these courses, I realized this show, How to Get Away with Murder, had nothing really to do with law. It was more about the drama of the students' lives, right?
Yeah.
It was more about the character relationships that they were forming and the arc that each one individually went through. So I was like, wow, I think that, in these shows and in these films that I absolutely adore and can't wait to get home and watch after school or with friends, you okay, Archie? Sorry, just want to make sure he's... You good? I'm dog sitting, and he sat right under my chair, so I just want to make sure he's okay. It sounded like he's
it probably
about to,
needs some... Oh, no, please, no.
No, I think he's okay. He already did that this morning.
Some love.
It's just some love, yeah.
No, it's just some love after puking.
He's okay. Yeah. He ate a whole bone this morning. Or like a little bone. But he's a little Archie, so it's a little much. But back to the story. There's not that much more from there. I basically realized that in filmmaking, you can, live a lot of lives in any position that you work, whether it's you're a cinematographer or you're a director or a composer. You're able to go through so many journeys, and I think that was what drew me to the show. And it wasn't the the political science of it all. So I, at that time, you know, it was kind of like I was a junior in high school. I was starting to do college application. I was just finishing my college applications. And I was like, all right, let's just make the switch. Like, I've always wanted to do something creative. I had a I had a friend at the time who was very much into film, and so I joined like the film club, met a lot of cool people there. It was a really small club, but it was something. And yeah, ever since then I just kind of made the leap into seeing what filmmaking was, and I had no idea, you know, from that point what it meant and like how much work went into filmmaking. I didn't even know what like a cut was really, and like shot coverage was. So getting into film school, I think it was a big shock, but luckily I still loved it, and so it's worked out since then.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's with everything, that you don't really know what's going on, how much there actually is in it before you do it and try it.
Mm-hmm.
But like, especially if you find out that it's what you want to do and that is what you want to love through it, I feel like that's really powerful and something really nice to kind of realize throughout the process.
Yeah, it's a good thing, because it's I really didn't want to change my major. I didn't, you know, it's a big hassle to figure out another passion. But also I will say that like figuring out your passion in film, because there's so many jobs outside of the ones that we, you know, continually hear about. You know, people don't really consider all the positions on set, you know, in production. Especially like the technical ones, or even, you know, any job that you might think of pursuing outside of film, that role is probably also in the film world, you know? So if you're interested in film and you really like HR, okay, that's a weird example, but you know, there's HR departments in film, and you know, there's law, entertainment law. So I think that combining those interests can be really fruitful.
Yeah. And have you something that is like your favorite side of filmmaking, or your favorite part of it, or are you just like hopping around everything and interested in the differences and to kind of figuring out everything or learning everything about it?
Yeah, definitely. I'm still learning so much. I mean, even like Scorsese just had a comment about his, you know, lifelong journey in film, and he was like, I still feel like I'm just now learning what this medium can do. And he's like 80 years old. And so it's kind of, it's overwhelming in a way to hear such a brilliant artist talk about film like that. But I think it's also like why filmmakers pursue it so heavily, is to try to better understand the medium. And, you know, if it were easy, I think that like it would just be less interesting, you know what I mean? But within like, I guess your question of finding a particular passion of filmmaking, I think I did that a lot in college. Like I worked as a gaffer, I worked as an AC for a while, I worked at like a rental house, so I got really familiar with the equipment that was coming in and the DPs that were working on a lot of like low budget documentaries, some commercials, some shows, and a lot of interviews. And so I had a really great time doing that, because this was also during COVID. And so that was kind of the only things really running, were these really interesting kind of new media projects and these, you know, interviews that were being conducted from 2 different physical spaces, but they were sending cameras out so that people could still participate. So it was a really interesting time. And it also allowed me the opportunity to have a job during COVID, partially. So I learned a lot through that. I also directed my senior thesis just recently. So once that wrapped, I was like, wow, I still don't know if I want to be a director. So I'm still kind of searching through that. But I really enjoyed that. And I've also, something I've primarily done through college and I'm still doing, is producing. Because I think it's a really lovely collaborative part in filmmaking, that you get to oversee like the whole process of like birthing this baby. And it's such a like a great position to be in terms of being able to work on multiple projects as well, whereas like something like directing is like all consuming, and I feel like you can't work on that many projects just volume wise. And so it's allowed me to see just a lot of the ups and downs of filmmaking as in a very like macro way, that I hope has, you know, given me a better, you know, larger viewpoint of the indie short filmmaking experience.
No, for sure. I mean, I always like was really astounded by what you can do and how good you are with just like managing everything, and like especially as a producer, I feel like you have to know everything, and you have to know a little bit about everything for sure. Like you have to be able to talk to the director, you have to be able to talk to the DP, to the composer, to like all the different departments, like editing, and you have to like know something about everything, and you're also responsible for everything in a way. So I always admired you for that you have this ability to just like have knowledge and be skilled in everything there, and to just be able to like get everything together into like this final product that is this film, and to like keep this energy, and also like making sure that you get the right people around you that you can work with, that you trust, and that help to create this unified vision of what you want to tell in the story of the film.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it takes a whole village of people to make a film, and I think it's, you know, it's a lot more than just like the film. Like the filmmaking experience is very much controlled by the people that make the film, and especially the people leading the film. And if they're not having fun, then I think that takes a toll on everyone else. And so it's I've really seen, like, I've begun to like learn the, you know, type of people that I really like working with, and you know, started to form those friendships just like you. Like I think that the way that you work is just so positive, and you're optimistic in the way that like, hey, if this isn't working, like let's try something else. Like you know, there's unlimited ideas, and like let's also take risks and try something that's funky and never been done before, because you have that very, you know, original voice. That's, you're not just trying to get the job done, but you're also trying to formulate something that people are like, wow, this is new.
Thank you so much.
So
that really means a lot to me. Yeah, it's always fun, but like I feel like that's also something where I working, especially working with you, I have the feeling that I can do that I'm appreciated for it, you know. And that's also something where it's not me but also you, that we can just work together and have this trust in each other. And I feel like that's something where filmmaking also is really, or what is really important in filmmaking is this trust that you have with the team, that you can actually put work off of yourself onto other people and say, I trust you, you're going to do what you do, and it's going to be good.
Yeah, trust is huge. And you can't, like, I think that some of the most, like, the sets that have really had their struggles were the ones where the people in like top leadership positions, you know, let's say the director doesn't trust their crew. And so then they feel like they have to take over the responsibilities of these crew positions. And then not only are they less focused on the directing side of it, but then they're also interfering or interrupting the process of these creatives that no longer feel appreciated. And so then they kind of just feel like paperweights. And I especially see that, like, it's crazy. There's this set that's happening right now that my friends are a part of, and they're describing their experiences to me, and they're just like, it's just awful. And it's a feature. And wow. I'm like, I couldn't, I've never worked on a feature before. But I couldn't imagine, you know, working for free, putting all my energy and time and problem solving skills for 6 weeks on the weekends, while I have a daytime job for, you know, 9 to 5 or whatever. And then on the weekends I'm working, you know, 12 hours a day. For them, the director to just completely shut down all of your ideas, you know?
No.
So
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest part, is that sometimes you don't always, it's just, I think the biggest thing is about the people that you work with, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
No, yeah, but that's a great point. I would say. And like let's come back to also your senior thesis that you talked about.
Oh yes.
And
Oh my gosh.
let's talk a bit about Penny and her gallery.
What a blast. Yeah, Penny and her gallery, which was a film that Tim composed for. Yeah, Penny, it's called Penny's Gallery, and it was my senior thesis. It's an 8-minute film short that she is a formerly famous art gallery director, and she's trying to kind of come back to prominence or bring in some younger folks into the gallery. And so she hosts an interactive AI art installation. And after she completely embarrasses herself when she tries the installation herself, she's forced to reassess what art really means to her. And so it has these AI elements and like, you know, what is being a woman in a top leadership position mean, and what is the art world currently facing, and what is art, you know, because it's really interesting that throughout all the dictionaries, art is described as something different, right? In every language, you know, it has a different association. It's weird, especially in the United States, how they classify art. I can't remember if we talked about this.
I don't think we did, no.
But the United States like classifies art in a very like by the formal dictionary definition, they have this weird definition of what art is, and by that definition, which I can't remember for the life of me right now, but by that definition, they are able to say that AI is an artist. So it's weird because in, you know, court procedure, what are they're going off of? They're going off of like any formal written documentation. So if they're going off of like the, you know, dictionary, it does classify AI as an artist. And so the discussions that are currently happening right now, and I went to some AI panels in Los Angeles, and they described their process of working with artificial intelligence as they were co-creating with almost like another entity. So it's kind of, also, have you seen Mission Impossible?
Yes, I was there yesterday, actually.
Yeah?
I just
What
saw
did
it
you
yesterday.
think?
It was beautiful. It was really good. I felt like I really liked the action pieces and the storyline, especially like the chase scene in the little Fiat. That was just beautiful.
That was very cute. Yeah, I said entity, and that's what made me think of it, because now there's these discussions happening in huge blockbuster films.
Exactly, but I felt like, especially in that film as well, is that it's. I was thinking to myself and also to my friend who I watch it with, is that it's scary that I don't know how far we are from that actually anymore, because like especially in AI I feel like we are so close to losing control and to not knowing anymore what's happening, because I also there's so much going on, and there's so much stuff that I'm afraid of with that as well. Like there was an article about like one, I think it was also US military drone who actually shot somebody who was AI controlled, because the AI then thought that the target was the officer, so the AI actually shot their officer. And that is just like an accident that was in one newspaper that I read, and it is so huge. Like that's one step away of just telling AI to like shoot people, and it does. You know, so like there's so much happening that I have no clue of, and I feel like with AI getting so much smarter day by day, that there's really something that we have to kind of keep controlled, or like just stay aware of, because I don't know, it's a scary topic for sure.
It's just it's a whole can of worms that I don't think we can even possibly comprehend
No.
now. I think I also just read something about man, I'm forgetting. Somebody compared AI to, oh, I know who it was. Okay, so it was Christopher Nolan talking about Oppenheimer. And he was comparing the creation of this bomb to artificial intelligence. That, you know, the people creating artificial intelligence have no idea what it could blow up into or what it, you know, could possibly lead to.
For sure.
Especially years down the line. And it could totally, you know, change the whole world. So I think that was really interesting because I think we're a little too, you know, we feel a little too safe online.
Yeah, for sure.
And with technology, we let it into our homes. You know, it's very Black Mirror, but I think it'll become a little scarier soon. It's even scarier now. Like, a lot of people at work are starting to, you know, even my friends are starting to receive these scams. I mean, everyone receives scams, but they're starting to be AI voice generated, so it sounds like a top person in your company. So say it's like somebody at Disney is going to get a call from Bob Iger that sounds like Bob Iger's voice asking them to do something, and they're like, well, they said they were Bob Iger. You know, it was Bob Iger. You know, and if you've never heard of this kind of thing before,
exactly,
and you're just an intern, I think I would, you know, do whatever Bob Iger says.
For sure. I mean, and that's the scary part is, and there may be like the approach that they also took in Mission Impossible is actually not that stupid to just say, fuck it, let's go back to analog, you know, let's go back to the Stone Age. And it's gonna throw us back to the Stone Age if we're not careful enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's literally that scene where this isn't a big spoiler, but it's that scene where Tom Cruise is running and he's getting instructions. Yeah. And they're like, turn left. Oh, actually, you're here now. And it wasn't the real guy. So it's pretty crazy.
It for sure is. And yeah.
But going back to Penny.
Yes, please.
Sorry, that was a long tangent.
No, it was important. I mean, it's important to talk to. It's an important issue, but yeah, it's for sure scary.
Yeah, it's scary, but then there's also, you know, like any other kind of technology, I feel like it does have its benefits still, and so I didn't want to make it, you know, like a huge anti-AI film. Because, I mean, even, like, I would be lying if I said I didn't love the generative fill from Photoshop, you know? Like, I think that, like, these tools could be super useful in filmmaking at one point. I don't know
But then
how
it has
exactly.
to be tools, I would say. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So tools, but nothing further.
Yeah.
And not the creation of a whole, you know, it's weird. But for Penny, she's very wary of it. She's very open-minded and wants to try something. But her biggest concern is that people take it seriously. And so when people start to not take this new art form seriously and they're just kind of playing with the AI, basically the premise is that when people dance, their subconscious will generate some kind of imagery projected behind them. And so people start just having fun with it. And they're being silly. It's like super goofy. It's this crazy, you know, music that Tim created. It's like super fun and wonky and kind of, you know, White Lotus-esque. But it's a little too much for her. It's a little too much for Penny. And so when she gets up to the spotlight and tries to dance, it's very restrained. And she's restricted by like all these thoughts going into her head, like what should this performance look like? And so it's a very awkward performance. Whereas when everyone else was having fun, you know, the crowd was really into it. It's like kind of like at your school's talent show. It wasn't necessarily the best performance that, you know, won the crowd over, right? It was just who was the most relatable, the silliest,
Yeah.
the most vulnerable act, you know?
Yeah.
So the AI part is kind of funny because there were a lot of different ways we could have gone with it, but really the main focus was not on the AI, it was more on Penny. And so the art projected behind them, it's not that different. It's very subjective, like, oh, which pieces are better than others? And it's kind of weird because, like, no art is really, like, you know, better or worse than others.
Yeah.
Like, if you go to a museum, you're just kind of taking it all in as it comes, and they're very different styles and painters, and a lot of people don't have a formal art history background. And so I didn't want to make it into like, oh, this person is dancing good, and so the art will be good. Though we did like discuss that in the very beginning of the process, you know?
Yep.
So it was a lot to go through. Tim and I had like diagrams of
I have to find that. That like the things we drew were incredible.
the film's
Of
logic,
how,
right?
Yeah, of how to do it, of how to create, because we had like
Yeah.
me doing music, then we had the dancers dancing, and then we had to like create the artwork, because we didn't work with AI, but we worked with Owen, who's an incredible artist who created the artwork. So
Yeah.
we had this like weird triangle of like, okay, how do we do this, and who's influencing who, and how
What
do we
comes
get
first?
Yeah, what comes first, what is there when we film it, what comes later. It was so crazy. But I feel like with what you said, I always like that metaphor also personally, because I feel like there's in some aspects of art, also in music, especially in classical music, there's so much competition of like who's better and who's doing the greater job in interpreting like different composers or anything. And I always thought that was so like I get the point, but I feel like it's so stupid, because I feel like in art, and that's the same approach that also like we kind of go with the film, is that everybody does what they want, and is if somebody feels like they resonate with their art, then it's great art for me. Like artists, there are a lot about, and there I had a lot of talks also last year with like a lot of people in my school, because nobody like had a definite answer of what art is. But one answer that really struck to me was like that art is just about the intention that you have. If you want to create art, then you do art, and then in that there's no good art or bad art, it's just art, and then you can as an audience resonate with it or not, but there's no real objective to kind of distinguish good art and bad art. And in that, I feel like that is, at least for me, also so freeing as an artist to be able to just do what I want and what is fun doing for me, because then I feel like I'm myself, and in that can also be like the most authentic version of myself is if I do what I like, and if I don't have to worry about other people thinking if it's going to be good art or not. But if I just do what I want and what I feel like I like, then that's going to be like the truest art I can do and the most authentic art I can do, and maybe then in that's the best art I can do.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and that's ultimately like the thesis of this short film, which
Yeah.
I won't spoil the ending, but really Penny is grappling with what if she just lets go and just is an artist and has fun. So that's the film. It'll be coming out soon. Going through the film festival circuit right now, so I haven't gotten any decisions back, but fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
really,
funny
really
'cause-
excited.
Yeah, you say, like, I'm just thinking about what you were saying too, and it's like, when you think about it, like, do you have a least favorite artist?
Well, I have artists I don't like, but then it's more about aspects of it I don't like. It's not that I think, oh well, there's like two aspects I would say. There's art where I just don't like it. Like I have music that just from my taste I don't like to listen to it, so I would say, I don't like it, but I wouldn't consider it bad art necessarily.
it's
But for
very
example, there's
taste.
also people or artists where I feel like there's bad intentions or like no love for the craft, and that's when I think it maybe be bad art, at least from my perspective, or a bad artist is, and I always bring that example up, and I'm gonna get so much backlash for that on any opinion, but like I don't like Ed Sheeran for that purpose, because
Bold
I
statement.
it's but my point is that he, for example, he takes so much for his concert tickets. It's like $200 to get a concert ticket of Ed Sheeran, and I feel like it's just one guy with a guitar, and he said himself that he doesn't know how to read sheet music. You know, he didn't put much learning into his craft per se. And I'm not saying that his music is bad. It's a certain style, it's singer-songwriter, and it's good music, but just the approach of like not putting much effort into learning your craft, but just doing it is okay. But then I feel like charging this much money, especially if you have an audience that is, I don't know, main audience, maybe even underage, and has to like rely on parents' money for going to a concert. There, I feel like it's quite a self-centered statement to make your concert ticket that expensive. Where I don't know, I went to like a Metallica concert recently, and it was like $90, where it was Metallica, which is 4 people, and 2 other bands, which were 5 people each, you know, and they all have to get paid, and they all get paid, but like, yeah, $90 compared to $200 for one guy with a guitar, and another guy with a guitar as an opener. I feel like that's where the intention is not good for me. It's like just like a capitalistic approach and not like an artistic approach. And there I feel like I would consider it bad art, but again, you know, it's completely subjective thing as well, and it's just my humble opinion.
I totally understand what you're saying, and I agree. And I think that the way we look at so much art is more through the artist, right? And whether we like them or not, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's not even about the art, really. It's about, you know, oh, what is the artist doing? What is their intention? What is their, you know, skill level? And yeah, I think that's really what it's all about.
But what is your opinion on that?
No, that's exactly, you know, it's exactly like what I wanted to show in that short film too, is that like the art was just kind of a product of what they were doing, you know? But when Penny really lets go, you know, she's able to, you know, create something that's much more, I'll say, I'm trying to be as removed from it as possible. I'm also biased, but it's much more like organic, and you can see the process a lot easier rather than it just appearing, which is, it's hard to understand if you haven't visually seen the film. It's also kind of a confusing premise, but yeah, no, I totally agree with what you're saying. And like anytime I hear people talk about directors or cinematographers, it's always like, oh, well, you know, I don't like the way that they work. Or, you know, I think that he's pretentious or something else. Like, it's never a criticism of the way the art looks or sounds or feels. It's like usually about the person making it. So
yeah,
I think it's an interesting thing, the way that we view art, because you're right, it's so subjective.
Yeah. And but I think there it's also like this really nice mysterium about art that I have no clue yet whatsoever, and I don't think anybody really understands it. But like the way that we can still differentiate between art and artist, but also don't, but still do in a way, because like if you just look at art, you can do that, but if you look at the artist, then your opinion about the art might change, or doesn't if you choose to, you know.
It's funny, I think that's the whole premise of the movie Tar with Cate Blanchett, and it's one of the reasons I love the film so much, because like it's her very argument in the film that it shouldn't matter, like you should just love the art for the art, and it's very much about composing. So I want to hear your thoughts on it, because that's her whole argument. It shouldn't matter who the artist is, but you know, I don't want to spoil anything that kind of gets her, you know.
I haven't had the chance to watch that movie, unfortunately, yet, because I missed the point where it was in cinemas because that was like my exam phase, and then it in Germany it isn't out yet on like digital, so I cannot watch it yet. But yeah, we had this discussion also in school in like film history about Wagner and his art, because he, like, if you talk with people who know stuff about music, everybody says his music is incredible, but you know, he was an idiot of a person, and his opinions on people were horrible, and still people listen to the music, and can say this is great music, you know. And I feel like that this is the whole thing where I don't know what's right or wrong, and I don't want to. Maybe there's no right or wrong. Anyways, it's just about what we think and what we do, and if we like the art, then it shouldn't stop us. I would totally agree with that.
Yeah, in some cases, and then I'm also beginning to like think more about like through Tar, you know, it was very much which I'm sorry you haven't seen it yet, but it's I'll just say that it's very much about the allegations that come with the artist, and we're very much removed from the ones that, you know, were creating art 200, 300 years ago. But the ones like right now in Hollywood, you know, with any allegations tied to them, we like think about Kanye West, you know, for those that stopped listening to the music after, you know, hearing everything that he's been involved with. Like, I think that that's like a more recent example where the artist really does matter. The artist behind the art really does matter, you know?
Of course. But I feel like that's also something that came more recently in this time of more individualism, you know?
Yeah.
Back in like 200 years ago, it wasn't about the individual person, but just about the art that the person created. And if we go back to like Mozart's time, and it wasn't meant to be art, I think. You know, he was just booked by a king to write about him. And it was like considered art, but it was actually just like going to a hairdresser. You know, it was really more of like a craftsmanship. And what I feel now is that we in this time now with social media just went into this individualization. So everybody tries to be themselves, and everybody is seen as themselves, and this connection got a lot stronger between the artist and the art. And I usually think that's a really good thing, because there's a lot of people out there whose art I got to appreciate more knowing the person, because I have a hard time sometimes, especially with like pictures and like fine arts, to find beauty in it, because I don't understand it, and I don't know about like brushing strokes and coloring, so I don't have any knowledge to appreciate the art, but I can appreciate the artist, and through that appreciate the art that he or she or they do.
Right. Yeah, I think I totally agree with that. I think that just like knowing some background, even if you don't even know what the art is, just like background of how it was created or the artist, makes it a totally different experience. I'm even thinking about like after watching a movie, I love going on IMDb to look at the trivia underneath the film and see like, oh, you know, what are the like unique facts of it being made, or like the cast involved and stuff, because then it brings a more, you know, intimate connection to the film that you've just watched.
For sure. And I feel like it just connects you more, just as you said. And the same thing goes with like music, and there you can even argue that concerts are like the ultimate thing you can do, because there you experience it yourself, you know, more than you can do with anything else. But there it's about the artist doing it, you know, and there you also have this connection. So the more you connect with the art, the more you also, or usually, connect to the artist, and the other way around.
Just wrapping my head around that. Yeah.
No, I just had that because like also like if you look back here, for example, I just bought like some like an artwork, like a painting and a card deck of an artist from Detroit who's called 1000. I don't know if you know him. He does like YouTube and makes videos about his art, and through that I just like I didn't know him before, but I just got to know him as a YouTuber, and then I learned that he does art, and then I watched the videos of him talking about the creation process of his art, and through that I got to like appreciate his art and his art style. So it's just something that recently also happened to us. That's why I thought about it a lot, and I think it's really really powerful to think about, because it puts art into like a much more personal connection to yourself as well.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to talk to you about is your company, Bandersnatch. How that started and how that evolved, because that's something there where when I learned about it when we were in Bonn, and you talked to me about creating your own company during their studies, I was like just blown away by your power and your will for that.
I don't know. I think it's honestly it's not like it's pretty easy to create a company, just like an LLC. And I think that, if you are working a lot as a freelancer, or if you have a lot of gear that you rent out to people, it's a really good way to just protect yourself legally. Because you are removing the liability from yourself, right? So, I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons we did it, is just because we wanted to work more often and get like annual insurance and have a more sophisticated identity when presenting ourselves to potential clients. And but I appreciate that. Yeah, it is a lot of work to get it started, just to learn all the ins and outs of what creating a company means. And but I also feel like that's true for anything legal you do with freelancing. It's confusing with taxes. It's confusing with how to support yourself when you're not working project by project. So it's a lot to learn either way, and having a company just kind of separates yourself from the work that you're doing, which is nice. So yeah, so we created Bandersnatch Creative, a friend and I who had been working on a couple projects together. He's a very talented director, Gerald, and I have produced a few of his shorts. And so we were like, hey, why not make this official, basically, and just become a company? And so that we could try to then find clients to make commercial work, and very short commercial work that is bridging this idea of like art and commerce, so that people can present their products in a way that isn't, like they're selling them, but they're just giving you this feeling of what having their product is like. So that was our idea. Yeah.
No, it's a beautiful concept. I watched what was it, the advertisement you did about this like jewelry company.
Sayron, yeah.
Yes, it was incredible. Like I watched it, I was blown away. It was so good,
so much.
And I feel like that's such a great idea as well for like advertising and also for what we just talked about, is like connecting the people to the product and like making them feel what it is, and making them maybe also there understand the vision of the company for creating that product.
Yeah, it's just about a group of friends that come over for tea, and she's just getting ready for tea, and it's very much inspired by the jewelry artist's ancestral background, and so she had so much to put into this project. She had so many great ideas, and so it was really cool also working with a client in a way that didn't feel transactional at all. It felt very collaborative. And so I think it's also within the experience of working with a company that sells products, that's something we also wanted to change, that because there's no middleman, and we're a very small company. With the middleman agency being removed, we're able to have that one-on-one conversation pretty easily.
No, it was incredible. Maybe I can like put it in the edit if that's
Sure,
all right with you.
sure.
And because it just blew me away, and it was shot so beautifully and done so amazingly. It was like really incredible.
Thank you, I really appreciate that. So hope to do more and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, I mean the concept is beautiful. I'm sure it will catch up. It's gonna be fun. But how was it
Appreciate
for
it.
you then going more into this commercial world of filmmaking, and not only filmmaking but like advertisement, more than just filmmaking as an art, but with a different purpose behind it.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's the same purpose. You just have a different like thesis. Like there's always a thesis you have when you're creating a film, and that could change, when you're creating a narrative film. I think it just has to stay a little bit when you're working with a client or a prompt, the thesis just has to stay the same. You can't go so far out and experimental and abstract. But it's the same when you're working on like a film too, is that if you talk with financiers, or people that are you're crowdfunding, and you tell them, hey, this is the film that I'm giving to you, they kind of expect that film to come out, right? So I think it's the same that way. And it's really, I think one of the best things about the commercial world is that you're given that prompt, and then you can be fun and creative with it, because it's really hard to like just come up with something. So when you are working with a brand identity and you're expanding that world, I think that's a really, like crazy cool thing that you get to play with.
Yeah, for sure.
And collaborate on with, other people that have had this company and understand what it's about. And they're also able to, have amazing insight into how they'd like their customers to feel. And we're just there to be able to execute it,
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's I never thought about it that way. That really changes stuff. Wow.
Yeah, if you think about like Nike, and they're, a lot of these companies are starting to do these more narrative focused commercials. If you think about Nike, it's never about like, oh, we went to the Nike store and picked up these shoes and they're just really comfortable. But it's always about like these athletes that, just do it. Like that's their slogan. It's this feeling of like freedom and empowerment. And so when the artists are creating these videos, I feel like that's all they're focusing on. It's just like, who can we show that is just feeling, empowerment and freedom and all the things that people that buy Nike, why people buy Nike,
Yeah, but that's like also like a whole different beast to figure that out and to get that across.
Yeah, no, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Nah,
how
you do.
it.
With that video, you completely,
Thank you.
I'm convinced.
But yeah, I think it's something that everyone's learning, and same with the narrative film. It's like, how do I make my audience feel something that through every stage, through the script to pre-production to getting your crew to understand that feeling, to production, and then post. It's so hard to even talk about a feeling and then communicate it through visuals and through this story that you puzzle piece together. It's a crazy project, right?
For sure.
Or even through music,
Yeah,
this feeling.
I was just gonna say that reminds me of the time where we first collaborated in Bonn, where you were coming to Bonn to create this short documentary, and the process that we had there, which was also really cool, because it was a lot about like not talking about music and or the purpose, but because it was a documentary about a person, we just wanted to like kind of stay true to him and deliver the feelings that he is feeling and that he is trying to get across.
Yeah, and his objective, and the story that he's telling us, I feel like we were just like constantly focused on objective, and so then that way like the audience could feel multiple things. If they wanted to, it's a weird kind of reverse, it is kind of like reverse psychology. I don't know. It's very like psychology focused and just like how people think and work, you know? Yeah, it's hard. It's very interesting how people work too. And I wonder from your side, are you somebody that really focuses on structure and like the final product? Or do you kind of just work on, you know, the feeling of the work and then see what the end result will be?
Well, it's hard for me because it's very different as well from project to project. Like I usually try to like focus on what I want to be felt, you know, in there. But I feel like through that I also have to really think about the structure. So it's hard, and I don't know yet how it will be best for me. Like there's different ways, but I feel like the best thing for me is to always get it back to me. And to feel like, okay, how would I do that? You know, how would I feel if I was the person that this is about? How would I feel if I'm the protagonist? And how would that make me feel? And also musically, there it's easier for me because I have, from like, I don't know, fourth grade on, I got an iPod, and like all time through I just listened to music all the time whenever I was allowed to, like other than in school, and there I also like sometimes did it secretly when like with your sleeve and shit.
Yes.
But like I always listened to music, so and all different kinds. Like my music taste was really like broad in a way. So I always made myself a soundtrack to whatever I was feeling. So there unconsciously I kind of got a feeling for what I feel like and what is my soundtrack, and there that always helps me to get back to what I want to do and what I want to convey in music. Because if I am able to like capture the feeling or understand the feeling that is shown on screen, and I'm able to transform that into my music that I would listen to when I felt this way, then that always helps me to create the music then to capture that feeling again for other people, and to just say that's my suggestion as then more of an artist than anything else. But so far it worked out pretty well, and I feel like with Under the Skin I kind of like hit the nail on the top of the head, because that was exactly what I would listen to, you know. And it was not just like music for Sebastian, but also like in a way music for me, because the journey was the same, you know.
That's beautiful when you can make something that's also for yourself, you know. And I think that's why every artist works, right? This is Under the Skin.
Oh my god. Yeah.
The beautiful little gift from Tim of the actual record.
That's so cute. Yeah, I still have I have the poster right behind me. I have to like take it. Wait, let me.
Oh, I love that.
Let me just take a picture. I have the poster right behind me, and I have your glass that you got me.
Oh yes.
On the piano as well.
Oh,
it was so beautiful. Like, oh my god.
We loved this coffee shop. It was like dinosaur themed. It was so good. It was like an IKEA playground. It was beautiful.
It was so cool. Yeah, the whole thing though, like Bonn was such a trip, such an experience for me at least.
Really
like working
was.
with you, and the whole thing was just, I don't know. It was the most beautiful experience I had working on a film yet, I would say. Really.
Oh.
It was
Thank
like
you so much.
so nice to like work together, and it was the first project I ever had, like the first film I scored.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
It was really fun, but like I instantly felt like so secure, and I feel like through, like we had such a good time. We did. Honestly,
we spent a lot of time together.
Yeah, and I felt like that made such a difference, because like I got to know you so well, like just as a person, and through that I felt like I understood much better of what you want to tell with Sebastian's story as well. And yeah, it was just incredible.
I think it really helps to, you know, work in person and just to have those moments where you're not talking about the work at all, you know, and you're just laughing and you're thinking about other things, so that when those ideas come to your head, it's a lot more spontaneous. It's a lot more spontaneous, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. So
That's
it was
really cool.
a wonderful time for me as well. Can't believe it was like, a year ago?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God.
No, it's got to be more than that. A year and a half? Yeah.
Yeah, I think almost. Yeah, it was. Wait. Was it
It's July.
2021?
20. It was the spring
No,
of
it was 2022.
22. Yeah.
Yeah, so like 1.5 years.
Feels like a very long time ago, though.
Yeah, it was
Doesn't
crazy.
Yeah. Time passed. I mean, you finished your studies in Bonn, and then now you're off to a 4-year program. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, and you're finished your studies completely. You're done now.
I know, it's weird. I think everyone, once they finish their studies, they're like, should I go to graduate school? Should I, is it, you have this little crisis, you know? Yeah, especially with the, the writer's strike and the actor's strike. It's quite I think my class was 2019 through 2023. So our freshman year, COVID striked, and then we graduate with a writers and actors strike. So it was
You've been through it all.
Yeah, I think our class has really been through a lot.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's a lot. But I just want you to feel like you're incredible as an artist and as a filmmaker, and I feel like through everything you will find a way. I'm 100% sure of that, and yeah, for sure.
Same for you, Tim. I'm so excited, and I can't wait until I see you out here more frequently.
Yeah, I'll try my best to be there. I can't wait. Like we saw each other last summer, and it was beautiful. And
for the time that it lasted.
For the time it lasted, yeah. Yes. The first half was beautiful, and then I got COVID. Short.
Yes.
But the first days were really like unbelievably cool, and I can't wait to be back out there.
Right. Yeah. I'm very excited.
I have 2 more short questions for you if you would like, and they go more into the more deeper side as well. So if you don't want to answer or don't have an answer, that's also totally fine.
I'm gonna try to bring Archie up because he's kind of. Oh, he doesn't want to come up. Oh, yes, he does.
Yes, he does.
Yes, there he is. Hi, Archie.
Oh, there we go.
Oh my God, he's so cute.
He is very cute.
All right, this feels like a therapy session now.
It really is, yeah.
All right, so because
Archie will answer if I don't have one.
Okay, so now let's get deep. First question is, I got both questions from a book of like a guy who's called Strzelecki, I think. I don't know how you pronounce it correctly, but he's an incredible author of like books about the purpose of life and life in general. And one thing that is really, really crucial in his books, and that I wanted to like know of you, is because I don't think I've ever asked you, he talks a lot about your PFE, your purpose for existing. And that that is something that each human initially has in him, and that this is something that helps you to like find your spark and find your motivation for life.
Wow.
So would you think you know your purpose for existing?
Ooh, that's a short question. Archie, what's your PFE?
It might be a long answer. It might be no answer. If you feel like it's too personal, that's totally fine. But I think it's really curious to like think about it and to be aware of that.
Yeah, I think that, does the author describe his own PFE? Does he go into that?
Not really. It's quite funny because he talks about a guy who he always talks from third perspective and basically tells himself his approaches. But he's talking about a guy at the cafe at the end of the world. And so he goes into this cafe and he's like just on a road that is, and he doesn't know, like he got lost and he doesn't know where he's going anymore, and he's just going until he can't find anymore, but his like fuel is getting empty, so he just stops at this cafe and is trying to get back on track, basically. So the whole thing is kind of this metaphor for what if you like don't know what you're doing, and what if you like lose track of your life or anything. And then in the cafe there's just like these three questions of like, okay, what is your purpose for existence? And then there's like two other questions, but I feel like the first one initially is like the most important, and the one that really struck me, and I've thought about it a lot. And yeah, what's
Yeah.
your initial thought?
Yeah, I think it would really just, I feel like my purpose for existing is just to surprise myself,
All right.
I feel like a lot of, creating is just when you're able to let go, and you're able to see a part of yourself that you weren't connecting with beforehand, or you weren't fully connecting with yourself, and you just got like a little bit deeper with your own securities or understandings of how other people work, and so I think when you're able to just like learn from that and enjoy it, I think also putting yourself in a lot of uncomfortable situations. I feel like I've been trying to do that a lot. And it's not to feel, oh, you want to go down? It's not to feel, okay, I'll put you down. Archie's like, this is too deep. I did not know we were getting this deep. It's not to feel uncomfortable. It's not for the purpose of feeling uncomfortable, but it's for like the purpose of like learning something new about yourself or the world, So, and I like surprising myself. I feel like I love or being surprised by, good surprises, hopefully. But just being like, wow, like that blows my mind. You know what I mean? I feel like it's like those little like Reddit or Twitter threads that, are like, this fact will blow your mind. But like that happens like in real life when you're actually doing something, and especially over the course of time, you're like, wow, this is totally changing the way I see things.
Wow, that's beautiful.
I don't know. Maybe that's something to, and then it's like in the office when you're just like, wow, I can't believe this is happening, and you like look to the camera and you're just like, so it doesn't always have to be like even good surprises, just like, I definitely don't want any bad surprises either. I'm not trying to put that into the world, but like, just like, people are funny, people are interesting. Like, humans are just interesting in the way that they behave. And so,
for sure.
People watching, people learning,
it's beautiful.
Learning more about yourself. Yeah.
Would you like to share?
You?
Do you have some like recent or your latest surprise that blew your mind? Like some story that you wanna share, or anything that sparks to mind there?
I don't know. I think, man, that's a tough question. I might have to come back to that one. I think it's hard to think of examples.
No, of course.
I'll think about it.
For sure. Well, to me, I'm also not sure. For the longest time, I felt like creating music actually was like the purpose for my existence, because it was like everything I did. But like recently, throughout the last year of like, and basically the first year of doing music full time during my studies, because before it was always like I had school and did music, so I was always trying to balance music to something. But really like hard. in the last year, where I had the chance to like finally focus on music and concentrate on solely doing music, I felt like that more than I ever realized before, that it wasn't about like making music, but it was the making music was to kind of get to know myself in a way, and to learn who I am, because that is something that on that level of on that artistic level I had never thought about. And it was always something where when people ask me like, what do you want to be, who do you want to be, what is your ultimate goal, it was like not like being famous or anything, but it was like I want to have like my own sound. I want to have like something where people listen to my music and can be like, oh, that's Tim. And the funny thing, I didn't know what it is, and I still don't know what it might be. Like, of course, there's like, okay, it could be like this or that, but I don't know it myself, and that kind of made me think like, okay, I don't know myself. How should I know or get to know others through my music? And I felt like through that it was really interesting to me, and I felt more and more that maybe my purpose for existing is more about just existing and trying to like figure out who I am and what all of this is. And I don't know, I recently felt like, especially now with all this like bullshit going on in everything, and you know, with wars and climate change
Constantly.
and everything, you know, it's more about like, yeah, well, we only have this life, and there's so much bad stuff going on that I feel like more and more I really cherish the moments where I feel happy. And in that moments I feel like I can be my true self, or I am my true self. And a lot of these times are music, you know, a lot of times where I'm actually like, oh my god, I'm so happy right now, I'm like in the flow and just lose every sense that I had before, and it's just music. That kind of feeling is the one I'm chasing, and I had that through music a lot of times. But now, last year I also had that in other situations. And for example, when I did the music video for your movie, and
Yeah,
where I like
that was
got to
incredible.
like got to direct like a short music video to like honor your film on from another perspective. I felt like that was like an evening where I had so much fun. It was so great, but I felt like, oh, I didn't do music here, you know. What is this, you know? How do I get this feeling of
Creation.
this creativity? Was there something where I was like, okay, well, what is this now, you know? Then
Yeah.
generating or generalizing your purpose for existing to creativity, but still I felt like it didn't really. No, that's not it. It's more about like just enjoying
Did
being
you
me. And
surprise yourself
for
in doing
sure,
that? There
that
you
was a
go. There's an
total
example.
surprise. For sure. I mean, maybe it's the same there. That might
Sure.
actually be true. Yeah, but no, I feel like that's really the point where I'm at. Is like I don't know. I have some ideas, but I mean, let's be surprised by it. You know, who knows?
Let's be surprised.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. It's an incredible feeling when you're like, I didn't realize I could do this,
yeah,
you know?
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. And then I have one last question.
Sure.
Also from the same guy from another book, but he is talking about what is called museum days. And
Museum.
museum days. So if you have a day that is a museum day, and what that is talking about is referring to his own concept of museum lives. So
Okay.
it's basically if you would die,
Oh,
you would
wow.
go into a museum that is the Taylor Garcia Museum in your case. And what you would see is yourself, and the walls would be filled with like what you did and how you spent your life. So, you know, if you like sleep for 8 hours a day for all of your lives, the museum would be 1/3 of sleeping, you know. So
Oh, yeah.
the whole thing is filled with exactly what you spend your time with.
Wow.
And in that, coming back to that, he asks, are you having like, is today a museum day where you feel like this is something I would like to be in the museum? But I like to generalize that and ask you like, what would be in that museum for you, and what would you like to have in this museum in general, not just today, but you know, what would Taylor Garcia Museum look like? And knowing that theory, would you change something about your life?
It's a weird way of looking at Instagram. My little museum. No, I think that's a really interesting concept. I think it would. That's funny. I want to use that. I want to use that to get myself off of social media, and stop doing things that are, wasting my time. When all of a sudden you're like, wow, 2 hours have gone by and I could have, done something more productive, or and by productive I mean that could be watching a movie or something that feels like, a little bit more fulfilling. So yeah, I would love to have this conversation in my museum. Like, I think that, like, my friends are a big part that I'd want to be in my museum, and our experiences, because I think that's like definitely when I laugh the hardest and like realize things about myself just through conversation, or through going places and doing things. And a lot of the times, like, my friends are who help me get out of my comfort level. And so I think just those relationships I'd really like to have. Rock climbing, I think I would love in my museum. My little museum of rock climbing is also here.
Wow.
It's something my girlfriend Jordan made for me. And what you can do is you can rearrange the boulders. And so, like, here I could like take this out and then create a different problem. And so then I have to like solve the problem. So.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
And then they're listed like V5.
Yes.
V,
Nice.
She created this when I broke. Yeah, when I broke my leg, she created this so that I could still think about it.
Always remember the time breaking your leg and jumping down.
Right? Yeah, it was a quick time. So I think at least rock climbing for me was one of those things that, like, I was really scared of heights. And so when I started to, I feel like get good at rock climbing, I was like, wow, I can do this. I really surprised myself. And it was just an incredible feeling of just being in the flow, because you don't want to fall. And so you literally are just, thinking about your next move. And it's very much a mental exercise with a physical exercise.
Yeah.
Because it's a puzzle, and it's also you learning about your body more and how it works. And because people solve the puzzles very differently, they don't all solve them in the same way. Like, sure, there's a beta, which is like the way that you could do it, but if you're shorter or taller or more muscular in some places, like you might solve it differently. And so I would definitely want that to be in my museum, because that's something that made me so happy. And
that's beautiful. That's
a
beautiful theory.
Unfortunately, it resulted in injury, but
I mean, that's the risk of life there. Yeah, I would say, like,
the risk of life. Yeah, it's quite. I mean,
it's also like, of course, like, shit happens, but I mean, shit happens all the time. Like last year, the vacation where I visit you, also shit happened, and it's just part of it. But I feel like the more the more you learn about that as well, it makes you like a stronger person, and even cherish the good moments as well. And every time you now can go back to climbing, you could either, of course, be like scared again and be like, oh shit, what if I break my leg again? But you could also just look forward and be like, I'm happy I can climb again, and I can climb healthily, and
definitely
that feeling of like cherishing that activity even more through what happened, I would say, can also make it into a good one.
Yeah, and I don't know if I am ready to get back to climbing. I still have that, definitely, made like a mental boundary that is hard to overcome. But there's things like doing it with ropes that I could try. So it's a little safer, and you know that it'll catch you. But yeah, I think that there is a time where I'll hopefully be able to get back into it, so it's but yeah, I would have both in my museum. What would you like to have in your museum?
Oh god, I never thought about that myself, actually. That's
when the question is reversed, is
no, that's it's interesting. I mean, I would agree, and that's of course easy for me to say no, but I think I have the same feeling with friends that they're really crucial, and also like I felt that as well with the project I did recently. Is the people also in the project, and the collaborations you do within the project are worth so much more, and are kind of like the stories between the actual things is what it's important to me. And that's also something that I want to do with this podcast, is kind of get the person in between the movies, If people know
Yeah.
me, they probably know your name, and they probably know that we're friends, and they heard about your name from like the music they did. But like through this, maybe they also know you as a person, and get to like know another side of you, and get to know the stories that we shared, and just the stories that you had, to be able to incorporate that into their own lives. And like I learned so much from you in just like this month we had together in the beginning.
Yeah.
And through our friendship, it was so much more that I'm so grateful for, that I got to meet you in the first place. And I feel like that all these experiences that we had together made me such a better human in understanding myself, and learning so much like life lessons and everything, that I feel like that's a huge part I would like to have in the museum. And yeah, I think music, of course, and like movies, and I don't know. I think it would be pretty colorful museum. You know,
Yeah,
all the
definitely.
different things. Like, of course, it was like music heavy, but like I did basketball, and all the different kinds of musics I did, and like bands I had in like the weirdest genres of, like, I had a punk band, and like the evening after I had like a singer-songwriter band where I played love songs. So, you know, it was like all kind of these weird things that intertwined, and yeah, a lot of contrasts, I would say. But yeah,
I
friends for
think
sure, music.
you can see it in your room, you know? It's kind of
Oh
like a
yeah.
museum. I mean, you're talking about, your music, and obviously that's very clear. You can see the piano and the synthesizer and your guitars and the headphones and the punk with your shirt. And
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, there's so much in your room that, even the story of our work together and our friendship is the Cafe Source. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like we kind of do have these like little museums in our houses that,
Yeah.
hopefully we have these meaningful items that represent a story. And, like I have with this and
Aw.
the little rock climbing wall that gives us
Yeah.
happy memories.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. Yeah.
I think.
Sure.
And you have a very colorful room. I gotta decorate a little bit more, but
But you did a great job with the vinyls already.
we're
That's
renting.
already
So
a good place. Yeah.
yeah,
My rental place also looks different. I'm back at my parents' house right now for
right.
vacation. So it's like the memories of the first 18 years minus the ones I took away to like
Yeah.
the other place, or some of course that I just take with me all the time. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's really beautiful to think about that we already have these museums.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not.
Wow.
I mean, I think especially with like maybe they're a little bit overcrowded museums in our phones too, because we have all these photos,
Mm.
and I think that's what makes, like museums are usually very like sparse and you get like a whole wall just for one photo. And I think
Mm.
that's what makes like film cameras so much back in style is that like it's so intentional, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you're really giving that one frame its
Mm.
love and attention.
Yeah. Yeah, but I feel like that's something that we should definitely be aware of, because he also talked about like how our lives in like uh general have about 18,000 days. No, 28,000 days. I'm sorry, 28,000 days.
I'm like counting my days over here. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like not much if you think about it this way. And
Right.
you know, I probably have like 50,000 photos on my phone already, but if you like cut these 28,000 days down to what could be in the museum, I feel like you really have to like think about the essences of who you are. And I think that's what where you also said in the beginning is like you want to get rid of like going on social media more,
Yeah.
and like really focusing on who you are, and the stuff that you would like in the museum. I think that's the most important step in realizing
Yeah.
that. And that's what the theory is also about. I think for me it's like realizing, okay, what would I like in the museum, and doing that. If I want 80% of the museum to be my friends, I have to spend 80% of my time with my friends, you
Cutting
know.
out the fat from everything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think something that I'm like learning, especially after college, in the past couple of months, is just learning how to say no. Because like it's not like you have unlimited time, and that like
Yeah.
whatever you're saying no to is that you're losing out. Like I think what I've been learning is that saying no also means that you could be gaining time for yourself to do something else, or, you know, just getting time for yourself to regenerate. And I think that's also really important that, like, you know, in your museum, if you want only the most important things to show up, that you have to say no to a lot of the other things that, you know, may be important, but isn't the priority, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
But I think that's also a really like fragile process to figure out what is to say no to and what is not. Because
it's hard.
Yeah, maybe it is something where at first you think like, oh God, no, that's nothing, but in the end it creates a beautiful opportunity, or the other way around, where you think something is great and then it turns out to be total, you know, shit.
Right. And then, like, or you just like make a commitment to something and you're like kind of half-heartedly in it. It's like not fair, you know?
Yeah.
To, you know, whatever commitment you're making, whether it's like a plan, you know, with somebody, or whether you're committing to like a work opportunity. I feel like I just want to, like, I want to be open to things as well, but if I know instinctively that like this isn't for me, just to like not do it, you know, and that I don't have to do something that I don't want to necessarily.
Yeah.
So, but it's hard to make it feel like that's okay.
No, of course, but I think that's like really brave of you as well to make that time for you, and to be that aware of yourself, to be like, okay, this is not what I would do, and to be this self-reflected and also honest. I feel like that's a really, really good character trait to have, and that can really make your life nicer for yourself and for everybody, because if you're not in it like wholeheartedly, then it will also reflect on the other people. So yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, this is amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just looking at my wall and this one dropped. That vinyl needs to be put back up.
Oh, which one was that again?
It was a Mount Joy vinyl.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a little...
Aww.
I'll fill the space with my head there. Well, thank you so much, Tim.
No, thank you.
What a wonderful experience.
It was really incredible. Thank you so much for being so open and talking to me for so long. It's been really beautiful, and for me really, really eye-opening as well.
Of course. Yeah, no, thank you so much for, you know, bringing me on and thinking I, you know, was interesting enough to be on this podcast. I would love to see the other ones you've got going, and I think that, you know, this would be a really cool thing.
Yeah, I hope so. Well,
and the synth.
Yes,
the intro.
I'm curious to see. We recorded the whole thing before. I probably had it in the beginning, but when we recorded this, we had no clue what the music will be. We did it after time, and because of like doing it digitally and the whole recording setup I couldn't record the synth background music that you are listening to right now at the moment that we are recording it. So we have no clue what it will be like, but I promise it's what we did. I'm not going to change stuff. So if you just the like last 1.5 hours just listen to like no, but if you, I mean, again, it's your fault, you know. If your background music is crap, then that's on you, you know. That they just gotta have to get through like 1.5 hours of that.
I think the composer should focus on the music, but I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, in this case, I'm like more of the like director, and you're the composer, I would say, because you did the music. I just like told you what to do, and which buttons to press. So.
All right, I'll take the blame if it's terrible.
No, that's all right. I'm sure it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be funny. I'm really, really curious. I'll do it, and then I'll send you for sure a short snippet of what it will be.
Oof, can't wait.
All right. Well, anyways, again, thank you so much. This has been really, really incredible to me, and it was so nice to catch up and to really have the opportunity again to talk about like these topics. We haven't had that in a long time, and
relive our journey
wow.
together a bit too. Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Very
continue.
nice. Yeah,
I'm
let's talk
excited.
a little bit more often.
Yes, for sure.
But now that we're both out of school for a little bit, I think it'll be good.
It will be
good.
easier.
Look at us.
Yes, of course. And then we're gonna see each other hopefully as soon as possible again.
Yes,
And
definitely.
I can't wait.
Reunite for episode 2 with us.